Hey, what's up, everybody? This is the 2nd and 9 podcast, and my name's Ray. This is my cousin here, Anthony, and we also got my buddy Lee here on the line, and we're going to talk a little bit of football, talk a little shit to each other. Full disclosure, this guy's a biased Cowboys fan, so we've had to listen to his nonsense recently about the playoffs and the Giants being shitty. I don't want to get into any sort of debate on the Eli Manning and Hall of Fame, that type of debate. So we're going to handle that another time.
Why would you mention that? I don't even the current topic.
Yeah, no, that's one I wanted to avoid for the first episode. But again, this is the 2nd and 9 podcast. This is our inaugural first episode.
Highly organized, highly.
Yeah, as you can see, we're in his office right now, in his cubicle, recording at like 10:15 on Thursday night. But we're going to talk a little bit of football. So this is going to be a very NFL-oriented podcast. We're going to talk a lot about, I would say, the NFC East in particular, because myself, I'm a Giants fan. Like I said, he's a Cowboy fan. We got Lee over here, who's also a Giants fan. But we're just going to talk overall NFL. For this episode, we're recording it on January 10th, 2019. So we're right in the thick of the divisional round of the playoffs. But first, before we go into the whole conversation about the playoffs, what we want to talk about first is I just want to get your guys' opinion. So what do you guys think about, like, the new coaching hires? We've got Gase is the big one today with the Jets. We got Vic Fangio at the Broncos, Kitchens with the Browns. We got Cliff Kingsbury with the Cardinals. You guys have any comments on, like, any of the signings? Personally, I think the Gase one was a little questionable. It seems like a situation where I would always compare the Yankees to the Giants and the Jets to the Mets, and the Jets to the Mets always making shitty decisions from the top down.
So biased with the Mets.
Hey, let me talk. Let the host talk, okay? But what I wanted to say was I just don't. Who knows? Gase could be a good hire. I hear a lot of that he's a quote-unquote quarterback whisperer.
Peyton Manning.
I haven't seen it yet.
Him. I mean, what better recommendation than getting Peyton Manning recommended?
I just think it's typical Jets.
The mic here.
I think it's typical Jets that the Jets have an opportunity to sign a guy who's won a Super Bowl, who has a reputation with bringing up young players and having a good reputation for young players and mentoring them from the start. I mean, he did it with Rodgers when Favre was on the way out, and Favre was still good back when they let him go. So, and plus, I think the icing on the cake is the fact that McCarthy actually wanted to be the Jets coach, and the Jets just completely overlook him. I don't know. Am I talking out of school, or do you guys agree?
I think he wanted too much power, and that's why they didn't want to give it to him. That's what I was hearing people saying.
But it's funny. I've been hearing today on the radio that, I think they were talking on the K show today that what's his name? Gase wants the same thing. But apparently they said that they're not going to give him the power that he wanted, but apparently that's what he was asking for.
I mean, they might as well have. I feel like if anything, you're right. They might as well have given McCarthy the job and given him the power.
I think it's two things that happened. You have a situation where Aaron Rodgers all of a sudden decided to talk negatively about his coach. So he pushed him out. And all of a sudden, this is the first year ever. Have you guys ever heard that he just got so basic in his run play? He was so predictable. I never heard about that about McCarthy back in the day. Back in the day, he was a good coach. He was partnering with Rodgers. And all of a sudden, that's the topic for this entire year, that he was so one-dimensional and everything was predictable and he couldn't do anything outside the box. I mean, had you guys heard that before this year?
I mean, they've been winning consistently every year with him.
I mean, it's
partly because of Rodgers, but
partly because of Rodgers. But I think that dynamic has changed over the years because Rodgers has gotten so much better. He wins the Super Bowl, and his obviously as an athlete to his stature, his ego grows. So I think over time I've heard him.
A dick, seems like.
He might be, but I don't know him personally.
I know he just seems like a dick. I mean, have you seen him?
He could be. He's very. I don't know if I'd call him super cocky. He's very confident in himself, but I just think that the way that he is, he probably wants to call a lot of plays and make a lot of adjustments in game, and McCarthy's probably not down with it, and that's probably why they clash.
Well, don't you think McCagnon played a big – I think the fact that McCagnon probably only has another – he either has to hit it out of the park with his free agents and his all the picks he has, so he doesn't want to bring him in McCarthy where he's going to – Gase, he's going to be able to control a little bit more. This is his last year. He obviously had some decision-making. And, you bring in McCarthy, you're bringing in somebody you're going to be there for a while. And if I were McCarthy, I wouldn't want to go to the Jets. Because once they get rid of McCagnon in 1 to 2 years, that coach is out. So even though he said he wanted to go there.
And McCarthy goes to the Jets. I mean, you're right. McCagnon is ultimately screwed because they're not going to win right away anyway. And ultimately, he's going to be the one that gets fired. And he deserves to get fired. I have in front of me the players they drafted over the last 7 years.
You got to see this list. It's atrocious.
They've been hitting their first-round picks. They got Darnold. They hit on Jamal Adams. They hit on Darren Lee somewhat. They hit on Leonard Williams, but everything else is so bad. There's not even like 1 or 2 6th-round picks, 5.
Literally the best.
You have a new one
in the 6th round,
and that was 2014, the 6th round.
Look, D. Milliner.
It's terrible.
Sheldon Richardson was good. They don't even have him anymore.
Yeah, he was an ass though.
But I just want to go back to my
facility. That's what it is. The walk-on facility is just so great that they walk onto those tryouts and they just they knock off the guys that are getting picked in the draft.
But McCagnon should be fired.
Florham Park is so nice.
They could have given this guy the power. Got rid of McCagnon.
Yeah. But I want to go back to my original point about the Jets' incompetency. They don't even know how to clean house. What they're literally going to do is they're going to whether it was McCarthy or Gase, Gase still wants as much power as he can get. And what's going to happen is there's going to be some sort of rift. Him and McCagnon are not going to be on the same page, whether that's in the draft or acquiring free agents. He's probably going to want Le'Veon Bell or he's going to want Antonio Brown. Gase, since it's his first year, McCagnon is what? This is going to be his 3rd or 4th year. After this next season, McCagnon will get fired, and then they'll bring in a new GM that won't bring in his own head coach.
They'll get rid of the coach, and then they'll rehire. Yeah,
it's the same process. How long have they been doing this for?
I understand where you're coming from, but at the same time,
but
that's just you're always going to see the Jets like that. You're always going to see the Mets like that.
But look at every team, though, right? That's what happens everywhere. Very rarely do you see both a GM and a coaching change happen the same year. It never happens that way. You hope that it does, but it doesn't.
You want your GM to hire the coach most of the time, right?
Over the course, when was the last time they did that? They went through Rex with that same process. How long has it been? Eventually, the Johnsons just have to be like, all right, scrap everything. Nothing's working how we're doing it right now.
The Johnsons need to sell the team, and so do the Wilpons. That's what needs to happen with the Johnsons.
Well, that's a whole other thing, but
or do something out of the box like what San Fran did and hire John Lynch. Go out. Give your operation to a John Elway type. Find someone to run your organization.
But like I said, with the Jets, they're not going to do it. They do everything wrong. They're just like the Mets. All right, moving on.
We just signed Jed Lowry today, so we're on the up and up.
That actually was a good sign. But just remember, this is
not baseball. I understand. I'm gonna start dropping some NHL lines like Boomer does on Boomer and Geo.
Yeah, what's his name? Don LaGreca does he's been doing these ice picks every week or every day, basically. Where people are betting a ton of money apparently. Do you follow Incarcerated Bob on Twitter? He this guy's betting thousands of dollars on Don's picks. Don, he lost last night, but his record since he started doing it, he's 13-3, and he bets against the spread. And the spread in hockey is a goal and a half. Yeah. This degenerate.
I know. Even the baseball games are 1.5.
Yeah, you're running a half. All right, so enough about the coaching. Obviously, we all know that the Jets are just an incompetent organization. Let's get to the nitty-gritty of the games. So 4 games on the slate this week. Divisional round. We've got let's talk about Cowboys-Rams first. So the Rams are favored by a touchdown. What do you guys' thoughts on the game and how it matches up? I'll throw to you, Lee, first.
I like the way that Dallas has, stuck with the way that they're supposed to play. The way that they're built is to run the ball, and when they can't run the ball and they need to mix it up a little bit is to let Dak get out of the pocket and make something happen. Not necessarily because it's to keep the play extended. But I honestly think the Rams, which I was talking to Anthony, the Rams have just been on the downward spiral. But at the end of the day, I think that now that it's the playoffs, that's when if Sue and Donald and the other 2 guys on the edge, they're all first rounders. I think that's going to be where the game is made. I don't think Gurley's going to be a big participant in the actual outcome. It's going to be Zeke versus that line. Not even Dak versus that line. It's going to be Zeke versus that line because they're just going to that's going to be where it's at. So I'm picking the Rams.
Okay. Well, we're gonna do picks a little bit later.
All right, we're not doing that. All right,
No, that's a good point. I mean, this is a tough game to call. I mean, I think the spread is way too big. I agree with you where in terms of the way that they're playing.
All the dogs, really.
Yeah, the downtrend of all the good teams. I mean, remember like week 8, Rams,
they looked
Chiefs.
Unstoppable. The Rams looked
even the Pats maybe looked a little more. They looked a little more vulnerable, but like the Saints too, Rams, Chiefs, and Saints, they looked unbeatable.
They all peaked probably mid. We all think that.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, I think this is the most interesting playoffs I can remember in a while because there's a lot of good teams, and it honestly, I'm looking at all the slates of games. I wouldn't be surprised if any of the teams won Super Bowl, and that's crazy to say with 8 teams left. But in terms of the matchup, I mean, I think the key is pretty much for all of Dallas games. I'm gonna say if they move on, the key is gonna be Dak. I mean, Dak's got to be competent enough to not turn the ball over. He needs to make some throws downfield. But I think that Dallas has a legitimate shot to win the game. I think the Rams are a vulnerable team. We were looking at the Aqib Talib statistic before, which was a little misleading. But I think they are better with him on the field. But, I mean, I think whoever wins the game in the trenches is probably going to win the game. Because we all know how
pros, you just named it with Marcus Peters and Talib. They've got real professionals. They got veterans, and they've known they're going to be in the playoffs. So we don't really know. They might have peaked or they might not have peaked. And sitting and waiting to just decimate people in the playoffs. We don't know.
They have talent. And by the way, the guys you're talking about on the outside was Dante Fowler is the guy on the outside, and the other one's Michael Brockers. The edge rushers, and they're both are very good. They're both first-round picks.
Okay.
Brockers.
Brockers? Okay, it was Brock. Okay, my bad.
He's playing left end. He doesn't usually rush the passer. But the stat Ray's talking about with the Rams is, I saw this guy on one of those Facebook NFL pages I follow post this meme. He's a Rams fan. He posted a statistic that showed that the games that Talib started, the passer rating against the Rams is 74.5, and the games that he was sidelined is 111.6. Now, he also put the weeks. He was out week 1, 2, 3, and 13 through 17. But I looked at it, and week 1, 2, 3, and the weeks he played, they played Arizona twice. They played the Bears. They played the 49ers with Nick Mullins. They played the Eagles with Nick Foles. The weeks he missed, they played the Packers. They played the Chiefs. They played the Seahawks. They played the Seahawks twice, and they played the Saints. I mean, Drew Brees is going to have a better passer rating than Mitch Trubisky. I'm pretty sure that's how the NFL is going to work most of the time. So, I mean, it is a misleading stat, but you're right. They are much better with them, and I agree with you guys. I think –
especially played in New Orleans, and like Drew Brees lit them up.
Yeah, I agree.
Put a big number.
I like the Cowboys a lot with the 7 points. And, in fact, if I log into my app right here, I'm probably going to move it to 7.5 just to have that little extra security. So if they do lose by a touchdown, you still win your bet. So make sure you move it up to 7.5.
That's what you're thinking.
But I love them with the 7 points. But I mean, I do agree. I think they can win the game, and I think, like you said, that the trenches is going to be huge. But even more than the trenches is that's still the
Tyron
trenches.
Smith and Martin are fully healthy.
They're healthy. They're ready to play. They're pretty well rested. They rested week 17 when we beat the Giants. I was at that game. Were you guys there?
No. Actually, Jordan was there.
Jordan was there?
Yeah, they went. Yeah.
But
the other thing that I wanted to mention, since we got like the big Cowboy fan here, who's better, Gurley or Zeke?
We were talking about this before, and actually I have this meme up right here too.
I actually think Zeke is going to have a better game, mainly because of the Gurley situation with his injury. I don't know where his injury is at right now. I mean, he's had that nagging injury, and he hasn't looked the same, and they haven't been using him as much.
And Lee, what'd you say the Rams were ranked against? You told me the other day.
27 against the run.
It was something like that. And I mean, the Cowboys are the 5th best run defense in the league, so Zeke's going to be running against a much more favorable. And I was trying to finish this stuff before. The linebackers and I'm going to pull up the Orlaws right now. The linebackers of the Rams are not that they're not good, but they're on the small side, and you can get up on them, and you can move them. And if the Cowboys line gets some push, and those boys up front are big. Sue's a beast. Donald's the best defensive player in the league. He's a beast. They could wreck the game for you. But if the Cowboys get to the second level and get on those linebackers, Mark Barron's 140 pounds, 130 pounds. He's a safety converted to middle linebacker. He can get pushed off the ball and move back, and the Cowboys could be able to run the ball on them. And it'll make Dak's life a lot easier, allow him to make plays. It's going to be a good game. I think the Cowboys have a chance. I love them with the 7 points. If I'm going to have to pick the game straight up, I'd probably go with Rams by a couple points, but maybe by a field goal late.
I mean, I think Dallas can win it. You gotta think the Rams are gonna look good at home. I think Dallas has been a better home team this year as opposed to last few.
Half the Cowboys. We have Cowboys.
Oh no, that's true. Like especially that is a huge stadium. I would also point out that I think if you're gonna be betting like daily fantasy, Zeke is I think the guy to go with this week at running back. I mean, I would say all-purpose yards, he's going over $150. And he probably scores at least a touchdown.
I like Marlon Mack in the next game we're about to talk about.
Oh, yeah. Well, before we move on to that game, you got any closing comments on this game, Lee?
No, I mean, I'm pretty much in line with what Anthony just said, or what one of you just said. Where I think it'll be Rams, but I want to win this pick'ems at the end, so that's why I'm going to say Rams by more than 7. So that's
okay.
All right.
I have a question though for you as Giants fans. How mad would you be if it's Cowboys Eagles in the NFC Championship? Like, how awful a scenario would that be?
I mean, it sucks, but.
That would be awful because then we're going to have another Super Bowl if one of them's going to get there where it's not – because you like to see two good quarterbacks going against each other in the Super Bowl. You're going to have Dak and Foles.
Wow, this guy's killing Dak and Foles out here.
As long as neither of them –
Yeah, but are they top 12? Are they top 12?
I'll play.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's what's happened the last couple of years, and it sucked. You get one good quarter, you know?
I feel that way maybe about Dak. I don't live in Philly anymore. I don't go to school in Philly anymore. So I don't want Dallas to win. As long as neither of those teams win the Super Bowl, then I'm fine with it. It would actually almost bring a little bit of joy even if the Cowboys win the Super Bowl, that they get that far and they lose, and then they don't get back.
That'll be painful. I'll tell you.
Oh, I know.
I will cry.
I know you will. Be like your dad after that Euro, like when Italy lost.
Bro, I'm telling you, I'm gonna be like Brazilian fans, like in the World Cup in the '90s when they jumped out the stadium when they're killing themselves. You know?
That's still like a story we talk about in our family. Like Angelo was crying after Euro 2000 when Italy lost to France in the final.
It was the way they lost. It was the way they lost. They were up a goal with like 30 seconds left, and then they scored a tie. And then I think it was like another 30 seconds into injury time. They scored again and won by 1. It was.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was heartbreaking.
That was a nice goal. Well, let's move on to the next game. So we got Colts-Chiefs is the next game. We got Chiefs minus 5.5 right now based on the DraftKings Sportsbook. I would say the one thing that it actually is why I bet the first week of the season, like my big parlay, and I included the Chiefs. If you remember, you go back to the Chiefs. Chiefs play the Chargers in Week 1 in L.A. And the Chiefs were a decent underdog. They were like plus 4.5, something in that range. I think when I bet them, they were in the range of like plus 140 something. And the one thing that I always remembered in terms of statistic for that team is Andy Reid either coming off of the statistic that I have here is Andy Reid is 17-3 in regular season games coming off a bye. And I treated the first game of the season the same way where I think Andy Reid is such a good offensive coach that when he has time to prepare, they're a tough team to beat. So as long as the defense is somewhat competent, then they're a very tough team to beat. Having that said –
is their defense competent?
Yeah, no, I mean, they don't have the most competent defense. They have a little bit of a pass rush, but I think that the Chiefs – I think the Chiefs are good enough to win this game. This is a tough one to call with the spread. 5.5 points. They haven't been blowing people out as much as they were earlier in the season. Luck's been on fire. So
the Colts are a good team. They got a good defense. Their offensive line is dirty.
No, their offensive line is just
Nelson
a bunch of big like country white boys like from the Midwest, just so pushing people around. They're monsters. No, they actually are dirty. That's why Marlon Mack has looked so good. I mean, I think
he's our entire Caucasian following with that white boys comment, just so you know.
My skin's pretty white.
No, so I'm going to bring this back to New York. New York is how the outcome of this game is going to be done. The New York Giants they played very close to the Colts, so that doesn't make me feel too good about the Colts this year, even though I can say a lot of good things about them. The fact that Ebron all of a sudden went being an awful pick for the Detroit Lions to all of a sudden becoming a stud. He destroyed my fantasy twice this year. And then you've got Luck.
$6 million next year. $6 million.
You don't have to whisper to me. You can talk to the microphone.
I'm telling you.
All right. So there's a lot of good things to say about them. But then you look at who's leading them. Patrick Mahomes. There's the New York Mets connection because Pat Mahomes was a pitcher for the New York Mets. Pat Pat Mahomes is, what? I can't bring it back to the Mets. The point is, Patrick Mahomes is, I think he's just such. I feel like what I said before. I feel like the Chiefs have really sort of just, let it just run its course for these last couple of weeks because, they were just dominating people. And then they saw all of a sudden they were close games. Honestly, I think they're just going to turn it back on and they're just going to decimate people and make it all the way to the Super Bowl, to be honest with you. That's my 2 cents.
I completely disagree. I don't think their defense is good enough. And this is coming from a guy I run, full disclosure for everybody, I run my own fantasy league. We're all in the league. I had Patrick Mahomes. I had Travis Kelce. I had Tyreek Hill on my team. So I'm a big believer in that.
In all those, they carried you.
Yeah, no, they carried me. And Mahomes was unbelievable throughout the year. Having that said, I think you're overlooking the Colts. You got to also look at the stat that what are they like?
Where's the game played? Where's the game played?
KC.
Where's the hardest place to play? KC. Where's a very easy place and the Colts are really good at home? The Colts. So that's another variable here you got to worry about.
I know that KC has a good home field advantage.
They have the best hold. They're better than the 12th man. They have the loudest decibel of any stadium in the United States. And that makes it almost impossible for any
organized cheers.
He's getting into
organized cheers.
He's getting into the decibels. How do you win football games? Where do you win football games?
By throwing the ball 80 yards in the air. Guess what? Patrick Mahomes can do that.
You win the ball.
Tyreek Hill.
You win the game up front. And Frank Wright has shown that he knows what he's doing. He's a good coach. They're gonna control the clock. They're gonna run the ball, and they're gonna run a lot of play action. There's nobody on the Chiefs.
They're going to run on the Chiefs.
They're going to run on the Chiefs, but they're going
to be able to hit dink and dump on the Chiefs. They're going to be able to hit mid-range passes on the Chiefs. They're going to be able to move the ball.
That guy over there. They're going to pound it down their throat.
I think it's going to be a slugfest.
Yeah.
They're going to be the team next year. They're not. This is not their year. This is not the Colts year that they're building for. Andrew Luck's first year back from injury is not the year he gets to the championship.
Yeah, I could counter that argument. No, and I like the Chiefs. I want them to go to the Super Bowl, but I'll counter that argument by saying this is Patrick Mahomes' first season starting. So you can't go by that.
He's lit up the NFL every week. What Andrew Luck started out, he's very, very slow. What was the record? 1-5?
And who's been playing the best lately, though?
He was also injured.
Who's been playing the
best? He also couldn't even throw the ball downfield, and it was clear.
They were bringing Jacoby Brissett in to throw.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, remember that the Hail Mary and then Brissett couldn't even reach the end zone anyway, so it was retarded. The point is that I don't think this is their year. They're not going to beat the Chiefs. The Chiefs aren't going to knock. Even though Andy Reid has the worst, not the worst record. He has an awful record in the playoffs, right? What is he like? He's 500, right?
The defense is good.
Yeah, something like that. I don't have the statistic up in front of me, but yeah, it's not nearly as good. It's not as good as the 17-3 coming off a bye in the regular season.
The Colts defense is good, bro. Their O-line is good.
I'm telling you,
it matters.
With that former Cowboy, that bum Orlando Scandrick, T.Y. Hill is gonna get behind him all day. I'm telling you.
Yo, why? I hate when people are so hard. I hate when people are so hard on corners in general. Bro. Corners get beat. Eli Apple is in the playoffs still.
I hate Eli Apple and I hate Prince Amukamara.
Yo, Eli Apple's still playing.
I actually like
the Giants are not playing. Eli Apple's playing.
Scandrick's always been a bum, and he's always defended him.
I'm looking forward to the 4th-round pick we got for Eli Apple. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Scandrick is still playing.
Was it even a 4th round? I thought it was like a 5th.
It's a 4th. Yeah, I was looking at the other day.
It's yeah. I mean, he ended up. He was a 1st-round pick. The Jets and the Giants have drafted terrible.
Well, that's what I was going to say before when you were talking about the McCagnon and then that they should clean house. Jerry Reese had a lot of bad picks, and then they went and got
That's almost done, though.
What?
That's almost done. Jerry Reese's picks. And when did Jerry Reese get fired? Do you know?
2004, the end of 2014, right? Because he had back into a 2 seasons, so 16.
Jerry Reese? No, before this season.
No, I thought he said Reese.
What was there?
I thought you said Coughlin.
Jerry Reese picked Eli Apple and Flowers for sure, right?
Yes.
And Beckham, yeah. Well, he killed Beckham.
Pugh too.
But even this draft.
What about David Wilson, and then there's a couple other guys in there. Up until Umanora, there was 4 or 5 awful picks, wasn't there? I mean, you're looking at
Jerry Reese Reese was hanging on by a thread because he coached the Super Bowl, or he GM'd the Super Bowl winning team. So
did Coughlin. Why didn't they get rid of both of them at the same time?
Coughlin's a good coach, though. I mean, I didn't
agree. I agree. I thought they should have gotten rid of Reese instead of Coughlin.
Well, I mean, the message gets old at some point, though. I think
does.
Even with McCarthy, I think it was a similar thing. I think the message eventually gets.
Well, the last straw was the fight between Odell and Josh Norman. That was like the last straw.
I know he lost.
He didn't.
Yeah.
He lost control.
That makes sense.
Yeah. The Giants have been a dumpster fire with their locker room last couple of seasons too. It's been crazy.
Well, Eli Apple's another one. You get him. He gets drafted. His mom is.
And Flowers too is a crazy ego.
All up in the video.
You guys are gonna lose. You guys are gonna lose Collins.
We might. I don't know.
You gonna resign him?
No, he wants to be resigned. We're gonna franchise him, and then we'll figure out if we want to keep him. Yeah, he wants to stay here.
My friend AJ was telling me that they're gonna lose him. He's gonna sign somewhere else.
You have stupid friends, though.
Well, he's good.
You guys saw what Herzlich said, right?
They were screaming at me about you.
No, I didn't say it. What did he say?
Herzlich came out and he said that last year Odell Beckham was a major, distraction for the entire team. Like, he basically called them out. There was a whole thing on it. So he just came out like last week. Herzlich came out and said it because I think did he retire? Or he signed with someone else on special teams. I can't remember, but he's obviously not on the Giants anymore. And he's the guy who overcame cancer. He was good. Everyone liked him in the clubhouse, but
I don't like to listen to bums usually.
Yeah,
Odell. He's a good guy. He's a good leader. He's a bum.
That's what I'm saying. He might be a bum on the field, but he is a leader and respected by everyone else on the team because he's a hard worker on special teams. Yeah, so the fact that he came out, I think, is inappropriate because he's not on the team anymore.
He's not even good.
When a situation like that happens and a guy comes out and says something like that, he's speaking for other people too. He's not the only one. So,
I agree with that.
And I mean, be honest, if any of us were playing on any sports team with a guy like Odell, he would rub you the wrong way. He's going to rub a certain amount of people on the team the wrong way, and there's probably going to be guys on the team that love him. I guarantee he's probably boys with a guy.
Anthony was that guy on my side.
Snake. He's a snake, like Sean Lee.
Snake Lee.
Yeah. Snake Herzlich.
All right, let's move on to the next game. Next one is Chargers Pats. Pats are a 4-point favorite. Is this the end of the Belichick Brady era?
At least so happy his father-in-law's a Patriots fan.
I'm loving this. This is the end of it. I mean, you've got the Chargers who have been so quiet. They had Bosa, who literally was injured for, I think he played one game in the first 8 or 9 weeks because he was on I freaking had the Chargers in fantasy, and I'm like, where the hell is Joey Bosa? So now, since he's been back, their defense has been a lot stronger, and they are a quiet team. They have so many different people that can hurt you on offense, and their defense. Do you guys know what they did their last game, in order to get to this point? They were playing, from what I understand, over 60% of their defensive snaps had 8 DBs on the field. They literally had their linebacking core were DBs. It's not going to work against the Patriots. The Patriots will find a way to destroy them. They're not going to roll that out after doing it last week.
If they do that.
So the point is, I think that the Chargers defense has been so quiet and people aren't prepared for that, and their offense has already been there. And Phillip Rivers, I love Eli, and we'll talk about it another day, Eli, Rivers, and Roethlisberger. But I think Rivers this is his year that he's going to find a way to, he's going to get to the Chiefs, and we'll see what happens because I already predicted I think the Chiefs are going to make it to the Super Bowl. But if they don't, then I think it's going to be the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of on board with you. The Pats don't have that aura to me this year. I know sometimes there's years where that happens, but I feel like that happens in the regular season.
Yep.
They quietly got a bye this year. I could be wrong, but there's just something not there this year. They don't seem like they have that edge that the Chargers seem to have. And it's funny, earlier in the season, I thought this was just like typical same Chargers team. I thought it was going to be maybe one of those years that they maybe go 10-6, 9-7, sneak into the playoffs, go out in the wild card round, and that's it because that's the Chargers. But it does seem like a different Chargers team this year. And you didn't also mention Melvin Ingram. Guy's an animal too. I mean, he's on the other side.
He can't play. He's got short arms.
Yeah, he's got short arms.
He can't play. NFL draft says he can't play.
What do you guys think about Hunter Henry coming back?
Helps the team, obviously. I mean, he's a good player.
They said, what did they say?
We're trying to do a legitimate podcast here, and we're talking about Hunter Henry.
That's a big deal.
What are you, Stephen A. Smith?
They signed Antonio Gates, and Antonio Gates really hasn't done anything for them. Hunter Henry's going to get 10 to 20 snaps, and he was a breakout tight end last year, right before he broke. What did he do? He did like a major. I don't even remember what he did, but he did something major on his knee or whatever. And the fact that they just brought him back for the playoffs, I'm saying He could be the Austin Hooper of their team this year. I don't know.
Austin Hooper. I mean, I just I don't put that into any consideration just because like he's not that much of an impact.
I bet you Hunter Henry gets 2 TDs during these playoffs. I'm just predicting that right now. Put it down.
They got to win this game first.
They got to win the game. I tend to agree with both of you, though. I do kind of like the Chargers in this, and getting the 4 points, it helps a lot, too. I would probably take them if I was betting the game. But the Chargers are just –
We're making our picks last. He is very excited when he talks NFL.
Well, we're talking about the game. I mean, how do you talk about the game without telling what you think? You know, you got to pick the game pretty much. But the 4 points I would take.
Well, what do you think is like the X factor, like the team that wins the game? Where do you think it's going to happen?
I mean,
what do you think is or give me like a key matchup?
Pats at home. I don't know. It's hard to say with the Pats. I mean, the way they play is just so different every time. It's really hard to say. I mean, San Diego's a better team overall. Their defense is way better. Their offense is probably better too. I mean, they have more weapons. They have a better team. They have a better team overall. It's in New England. It's Tom Brady. It's the San Diego Chargers have done this year in and year out with choking it away, and I hate that word because I mean you've always used it with Romo and the Cowboys, and it's a choke. I don't mean it in that sense that I don't feel like they're gonna necessarily go in there in a place they've never won before and win the game. But I mean, like I said, I like the 4 points. This is a toss-up game. I honestly wouldn't really even touch it, especially straight up. If I was going to get the points, I would maybe go with the Chargers, but I would not touch this game as a money line game.
I mean, I honestly think that this is going to be really boring. I think one of two things are going to happen. The Patriots are going to somehow get that aura that Ray was talking about, where all of a sudden they're going to just do it. And we're going to be like, man, they're not gone, and they're just going to light it up. Or I think it's going to be the most boring game to watch, where it's going to be running the ball and doing a bunch of short crap. What?
Chess match.
And the Patriots hang in, and they hang in. And somehow Gase gets in field goal range, and they hit a field goal to win the game.
But it's funny you mention that because what I was going to say in terms of like the X factors, I think I'll make a prediction here. I think if the Chargers hold Sony Michel plus James White to under 125 total yards.
What about Rex Burkhead? Burkhead appeared. All of a sudden he showed up at the last week.
All the running backs, basically.
We'll see how much they utilize him.
Don't give Brady all that easy shit. Don't give him all the dink and dump, hand it off.
But who's the easy shit? His go-to guy is James White.
James
White is good out of the backfield. Sony Michel is actually an underrated running back. He was good in college, and he's solid.
Yeah, Burkhead just had 2 TDs in the last game, didn't he?
Yo, bro, Devlin was killing me.
It was Devlin. You're right. It was Devlin who did that.
Devlin scored 4 touchdowns in 3 games.
This is playoff time. James White's a better player than those guys. I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if James White gets 10 targets in the game.
No,
I would say that's like an over-under bet, like for him, because Brady's going to go to him.
They're so random, though. They are so random. You never know who's going to get the ball. You never know how they're going to play it. It could be a ground and pound game one week, and they could come with something completely different.
But in terms of like a running back out of the backfield, I would rank James White like maybe top 5 running back in the league.
As a receiver,
he's dirty.
He's really good.
Yeah, he's good.
What about the wide receiver that's gone?
Josh Gordon?
Yes, there you go. So I want Anthony's perspective on this. Anthony was big on him. He traded for him.
Oh, yeah. Remember all that stuff I said to you about, he's going to get back into trouble. Oh, no, it's worth the risk.
I mean, for a 5th-round pick, it was worth the risk for the Patriots to get him. I mean, right? I mean,
oh, no, I'm talking about fantasy.
Fantasy? Oh, okay. What did I trade?
Odell Beckham? Didn't you trade Odell Beckham and a couple other guys?
Yeah, but I mean, I got Mark Ingram in return. I got Robert Woods. I got Baldwin.
No, you had Woods in your team.
No, I got Robert Woods.
You got Robert Woods in that trade?
Yeah. It wasn't a terrible deal. My team was terrible, bro. It was terrible. It was a bad team. I did good in every league, but
it went from terrible to terrible.
It was terrible. It was terrible.
Yeah, well, I had most points, and I didn't.
Bro, you had the luckiest team I've ever seen in my life. James Conner. That's not a skill pick.
I took him for. I've told you this, and I don't know if I've told you this. I took James Conner in the draft because I legitimately thought, with the tag for the 2nd year in a row, Le'Veon Bell would miss at least week 1. Maybe first couple weeks.
I did the same thing. Yeah.
And then the rest was just like, let's see what happens.
But
and then he ended up
not coming back. Karma came back and dealt you what you deserved, and James Conner didn't play at the end of the season.
Yeah, he loves to see my misery.
No, because you had a top-heavy team and a bunch of substitute teachers on the bottom of your roster.
Once someone got injured, I was screwed. It was just like you might as well just like throw a 0.
So now Caucasians and substitute teachers are not going to listen to this podcast moving forward.
Oh, man. All right.
That's fine.
We're not racist.
All right. Last game. Eagles Saints. Saints 8-point favorite in the Thunderdome in NOLA.
Tough one.
And
Want me first?
What say you?
I love the dogs this whole week, man. I really love the dogs. I think I'm gonna take the Saints to win the game, but the 8 points, I think I would go with the Eagles. I think it's gonna be a closer game than that. The Eagles are a good team, man. I hate to admit it as a Cowboy fan.
They didn't look like it early in the season.
Bro, they didn't.
They looked like shit.
And the Giants just almost beat them 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, the Giants are a weird team. They did well against the Colts too. That was really weird. Cowboys got shut out against the Colts.
Giants beat the Bears.
The Eagles team is deep as hell, man. They have 2 left tackles on their in their starting lineup. 2 left tackles. Their backup left tackle will be the Giants' starting left tackle. They have 8 guys who could start in the – Wisniewski is a backup. He could start in the league. I have no idea how to say Habawute, whatever the hell that guy is. He's a beast, too. He played all last year when Jason Peters was hurt. Chance Warmack was a first-round pick. He's on their bench.
He's from Tennessee.
They have 3
I didn't even know that.
Guys on their bench that are good players. Their defensive line is deep.
Bro, they got Golden Tate, too. He's another quiet guy that they picked up who's a really good player.
They have Chris Long and Timmy Jernigan coming off the bench also behind a beast defensive line of Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Haloti Nada, Michael Bennett. They're deep. Their safeties are good. Their linebackers are good. They have 3 good receivers. They have 2 good tight ends. They have 2 good.
So where are you going with this? With the Eagles, you're pumping up the Eagles. I'm waiting to hear this. I'm
just saying. My point was just basically the Eagles are a good team. I didn't always think that, but if you look at their depth chart, they have a really good team. I think it's going to be a much closer game. He
didn't know what to say, so he just started reading off names.
I mean, it was like Stephen A. Smith. You saw it? Oh, my God. That was the worst. You saw that? That was hilarious.
Oh, no. I've been seeing all the things.
He said Hunter Henry has been having a great year. Hunter Henry hasn't played a game. He said some linebacker was going to have to cover Hunter Henry. He retired last year.
I think it's just funny when they go to Dallas and do First Take, and he's wearing the Cowboy hat, and he's just talking shit to all the Cowboy fans.
I never hear that on my computer.
Oh, my God. That's hilarious. I wish – see, this is where we would broadcast this on the screen. That's hilarious. It's like a –
Share it. Hit share screen.
How do I?
Anthony has to do it. Or you have to do it.
I'm not in there anymore. I got kicked.
Yeah, well, because I wanted to – the 2 screens are just showing now. It had your black screen before, so it's nicer this way.
It's just Stephen A. It's a Cowboys cheerleader with Stephen A. Smith's face photoshopped on the Cowboys.
There you go.
Yeah, that's good.
You get the image from that alone. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm kind of on the same side as you. I mean, it's funny. All the teams that are dogs, they're the teams that have been hot. And, I mean, we've seen the Giants win a couple Super Bowls like that. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be I think it's going to be a tight game. 8 points is a lot.
It's a lot of points.
And who knows how the Saints are playing. I mean, the Saints even I know you get a first round bye, you clinch the number 1 seed, you sit all your guys week 17, you get rest, you get ready for the playoffs. But I mean, they got blown out by Carolina without Cam Newton. I know that may not be that big of a deal, but I think for morale overall as a team to get whooped like that,
even against Tampa Bay, they didn't look that good.
No, they haven't. I mean, for this game, we're going to see how much pressure they can get on Breeze. I think that's the key to the game. The Eagles D-line versus or the Eagles D-line basically just getting in Drew Brees' face. If they're putting pressure on him, I think that it could be a long day because
they got 6
I could easily see Foles going for 250-plus yards, 2-3 touchdowns. So, I mean, they're going to have to score points.
How are they good with Nick Foles and not that good with Wentz?
It doesn't
make sense. People tell me they should trade Wentz.
I was telling my dad going into the Ravens Chargers playoff game that the Ravens, even though the Ravens lost, the Ravens reminded me a lot of that Broncos team with Tebow. Lamar Jackson isn't the best thrower of the ball, dynamic on the ground, but when you're controlling the clock like that,
the thrower of the ball, even the passer. Sorry, I just had to pick on that a little. The thrower, he's not the best thrower of the ball.
I've heard that said like that.
All right, sorry, I had to pick on that.
I enjoyed that. I thought it was pretty good. He's just
back to my point. It reminded me a lot of that Tebow team where their defense was started playing a lot better, coincidentally, when Lamar Jackson took over. But I think a lot of that is that they already had a pretty good defense, but when you have a team that is running, playing ground and pound, they're controlling the clock, the defense is off the field, they get a chance to rest, and when they get on the field, they're fresh, and they can go hard as hell for maybe that first series or the first, 3 plays. You could get them on a 3-and-out, or maybe, they get a first down, and you get them off on the next few downs off the field for a punt.
Eventually you get behind. Eventually you're going to have to throw the ball.
It's the same problem with Dak.
Oh, no. I'm not saying it's a sustainable
Dak's not a great thrower of the ball either.
But my point is that I think that there's something to a team getting behind a player, the way that the players got all behind. You don't want to say that they're great leaders, but Tebow was coincidentally a leader. But when a whole team sees just the fortunes change from a switch like that, especially the quarterback position, I think just building momentum from that, I think there's something to that. Plus the fact that Foles was the one that took over and won the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah,
they're
they know he could do it. He could do it.
Yeah, he could do it. I mean,
they've seen him do it.
The people in Philly, they were chanting in the streets.
Who started Week 17?
Nick.
Who started Week 17 for the Saints? Teddy Bridgewater?
Yeah.
So this is the freaking Saints. Didn't they get first round or for the top seed?
Number 1.
And where are they playing?
New Orleans.
So why are we even talking? This whole conversation is stupid. The freaking Saints are going to light the freaking Eagles up.
He's
not a gambler though. He doesn't those points are a lot of points to give up, bro.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles won the game outright.
I can see them winning.
I wouldn't be surprised at all.
I think it's going to be lower scoring than you think too.
All right, when they win by 14 and the next week we do this, I'm going to be like, all right, so do I have to do this again about the Saints and the Chiefs?
Oh, we're going to make our picks next. But I think he wants to be like the know-it-all podcast. You guys know what the hell you're talking about. He's just – I think –
he's already saying we're going to the tape. He's already talking about wins he has for next week.
I know.
I do. I'm ready for – I'm starting to plan for next week. I already know what the outcome is. You guys are sitting here talking about the freaking Eagles going down to New Orleans to beat Drew Brees when he's really think about it. Does him and Sean Payton, have you seen any of the follow-up with them? I feel like 2 guys that have won the Super Bowl before and have been there, they haven't been back in a while. And that's the whole thing with freaking NFL players is that they sit there and they feel like they might never get back. Like Eli Manning, I hope somehow the Giants go on a special run. They have him next year and he gets it. He's probably not getting back there. Peyton Manning got lucky that he got traded to a team and they had the right place to, they had the defense in place. I honestly think Drew Brees and Peyton they're going to push them to the Super Bowl. That's what I think is going to happen.
Did you think that the Eagles would beat the Vikings last year? Did you think they were going to beat the Vikings in Minnesota last year?
No.
I didn't think they were going to beat
I thought Minnesota was
Lightning doesn't strike twice. I'm just saying.
That's what I was telling you guys in 2011. Lightning doesn't strike twice. The Giants will not win again. They're not beating the Pats again. And what happened?
I don't think Philly's going to win the Super Bowl, but
Anthony, I prayed really hard. That's why they won the second time. I just want to let you know that. All right, as long as you know that. All right.
I hope you. All right.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we're going to do our picks next, but it wouldn't surprise me if the Eagles won this game. They could easily win this game and not go on to the Super Bowl.
Why don't you think they played?
I don't think they're the same team as last year. But
it's 8 points. It's not just straight up.
No, I get that. But no, we're not talking about the spread right now. We're talking about the wins. We're not picking right now.
I'm still going to pick the Saints to win. I think the Saints will win too, but I think it's going to be a closer game than people will think.
I know, but you guys, Ray just said I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles win outright. That's what he just said.
I wouldn't be surprised either.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm not talking about the spread, the 9 points. I'm talking about just in general. Look at the specifics. Look what the Eagles have done. They have been like this the whole season. And last year they went on a crazy run. The fact that they had Foles for almost all of last year, right? When did Wentz get injured last year? You guys remember? I don't remember the exact.
13, 14. Yeah, but their season going like this, it doesn't matter. It's all about how you're playing now. And the last few weeks, the Saints have looked like shit.
And look at
the Eagles that's why I keep talking about momentum.
The Eagles lost week 10. They came off a bye week 9. They lost to the Cowboys week 10. They lost to the Saints week 11. They got destroyed by the Saints. They lost by 48-7. They went out and beat the Giants. They beat the Redskins, teams they should beat. They lost to the Cowboys. They came back and beat the Rams. They beat the Texans. They beat
And
the
Foles
Redskins.
came in when?
When did Foles come in?
I mean, Foles
Wasn't it the last 2 or 3 games? I think.
Wentz played against the Cowboys.
Yeah, so Wentz played in that the Saints game. And their defense was in shambles back then.
So Foles,
their defense was
Wentz got
terrible.
hurt during the Cowboys game. I don't remember that. When did he get hurt? Yes, he did get hurt during the Cowboys game. Yeah. He played the game. He finished the game, but he did get hurt during.
I'm just saying. I feel like when you hear about these miracle teams, you see them their last couple games. Like you start to see, there's almost like a belief that comes out of them. Like around week 12, 13, 14, they just start to really impress you. The Eagles, I'm not convinced that they're not going to have a crap game. Well, guess what? You can't have a crap game in the playoffs. The Saints had their foot on the pedal this whole time, and then they said, all right, we've got first seed. All right, let's just relax. Let's get Teddy Bridgewater out there. And Breeze are the ones who come back there again.
How about
they had their foot.
He hasn't played in 2 weeks. He hasn't played how long, Breeze? 3 weeks?
1, 2, 3 weeks. But the Saints had their foot on the gas pedal up to that Dallas game. When they got punched in the mouth that game, they haven't played the same as they had earlier in the season. So I think it's a completely different team. You can't. Same with the Chiefs.
Where was that game? Was that in Jerry's house or what?
It was in Dallas.
It's a big difference. They play completely different down in New Orleans. And the same thing with the Chiefs. The volume there is ridiculous. I mean, I would put those two plus obviously Seattle and Atlanta. Those are the four of the hardest places to play. I mean, you could also say Patriotsville up there, but the point is,
how many times have we seen a playoff game where there's a big favorite and the visiting team comes in and they get the ball to start the game, they drive right down the field, they punch it into the end zone, and that stadium gets completely quiet and silent.
Yeah, but you're talking about an offense and a defense. But Foles the Eagles don't really have that offense. They have their defense is what's going to get them.
They have a line though.
Their offense has been playing well. They didn't do a ton against the Bears, but the Bears have the best defense in the NFL.
The best receiver in the game is Michael Thomas. The next 3 best receivers. I just spit on your mic. On the mic. My bad. The next best 3 receivers on the Eagles. Golden Tate, Alshon Jeffrey, and really you'd say
but Drew Brees will make the other wide receivers better than Foles will make those. I'm just saying it's Drew Brees down there, their number 1 seed. To even think that they have a chance outright, I don't think they do. I think they're going to win by double digits.
Eagles.
That's very short-sighted to think that they don't have a chance to win the game. I think, like I said earlier,
anybody has a chance to win the game. I just think that if we're trying to give our opinions here. At the end of the day, of all these 4 matchups, this is one that I just feel like you can't bet against the Saints here. You just can't. They've looked too good this year.
I'm gonna take them straight up too over the Eagles, but I think it's gonna be closer than people think it's gonna be.
Yeah, I mean, it's no. If you're a betting man and you're betting money line, it all depends on what.
You're not gonna make anything off that, though. You're not gonna get anything.
Yeah, you're not gonna make shit. So I mean, the money's with the Eagles.
What would you do? Because the higher you push the spread up, money line Lee would be 0 points. Just the Saints to win straight up.
You bet $20.
How confident are you? How hard would you push it up? Minus what would you be okay?
Would you bet
they're going to win by how many points?
Yeah, would you bet $20?
I think they're going to win by double digit. I think for the sake of this, they're going to win by double digits. Would I bet on that? Hell no. But I do think that they're going to win by double digits.
Okay. But I'm saying, how high would you go to feel comfortable that they're going to definitely cover that spread? Would it be 6.5?
6 or 7.
6.5 maybe? 6.5 to get your maximum amount of money? So if you're betting on the Saints, you might probably bring that 8 down to 6.5 and hope that they win by a touchdown?
Yeah, so you'd be betting something like you bet $20 to maybe win 14, 13.
Yeah,
is that a bet you would do?
It won't be.
Of course not. But I'm just telling you what I think is going to happen. You guys worry about the betting. I'll worry about picking.
Sorry,
there's a lot of options. You could parlay that up. You could parlay that up in some way.
I already parlayed it up. I took all the dogs.
You find a way. That's a good week to tease it. Look at those numbers.
Oh yeah. Oh my
God.
All
up 5
I teased the shit out of them. I
teased the shit out of them.
I teased the shit out of one. I took down on one. I took Dallas plus 20.5. I took the Colts plus 18.5.
Do you even know what a teaser is? No,
It's basically you can adjust the spreads.
It,
So, I took the
it'll
Cowboys
move
plus,
all the spreads like 6 or 5 or 7 points, something like that.
and then I took the Chargers.
I have a really big mortgage, and I can't. I have no actual money. I have no
children.
He's got 3 kids.
He's got 3 kids. Let's point that out. So I don't get to do anything fun. That's why you guys are together there tonight, and I'm here in my house because I couldn't leave.
We almost were with you.
Ann was saying before, we'll do some of these at your house, and we'll get all together. You guys will just have to buy a couple microphones.
We'll build the studio in the garage.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Well, I got the basement.
I guess we could go to the basement.
Yeah,
you just gotta buy some soundproof walls.
That you can't hear anything downstairs. People ring doorbell. There's nowhere to. You can't,
really?
Yeah, you can't hear anything down there.
Okay, now we've been going on for a while now, so let's get into the picks. Lee, we'll start off with you. You'll make the pick first, we'll go around the table to each game. So we'll go back to Cowboys-Rams.
Rams. I looked at the spreads. You want to read the spreads off each time?
Yeah. Cowboys-Rams. Rams -7.
So I'm picking the Rams.
With the -7.
Tony D.
I'm going to take the Cowboys plus the 7 points.
And I'm a rider with you. Unfortunately, I don't want to see them win, but
we should pick both. We should pick with the spread and not without the spread.
Okay. Yeah.
That's too complicated. What do you have 8 different? All right.
It's a big difference, though. It's a big difference.
All right.
I'm gonna actually take the Cowboys.
He's taking the Cowboys.
It's a big difference, though. You might not. Maybe you won't.
Oh man. Cowboys. What about you, Lee? Straight up, you answer.
I already picked them to cover 7.
I'm gonna take the Rams.
That makes sense. I do this my heart. Completely. This is on my heart.
Yeah,
right
that's
there.
completely biased.
100%. I'm gonna have to do it though. I can't go on record for the first time in my life and pick against my team. That'd be a horrible thing to do.
Haven't you gotten to the point though where you go against picking them? So
you're happy to get it right.
So then when they lose, you lose your bet, but they're still winning.
I've done that before, but for the most part, if I think they're gonna win, I put money on them. I know them better than any other team, so most of the time I try to bet on them when I feel like I know what's gonna happen.
Okay, Colts Chiefs. Chiefs -5.5.
Chiefs. Both, obviously.
I'm gonna take the Chiefs to win the game, but I'm gonna take the Colts with the spread.
All right, I'm taking. Man, it's tough. This one's
games
tough.
They're hard to
These
pick.
games are all
they're
tough.
hard to pick without the spread for sure.
I'm gonna say with the spread, I'm gonna take the Colts. Man, this is a tough one because I'm deep down. I'm like kind of a fan of the Chiefs just from having Mahomes on my fantasy team this year. All of them, too, Travis Kelce and Tyreek. I think
it's gonna be a fun game to watch.
I think the Chiefs will pull it out. Yeah, I think it's gonna be like a field goal game. And wow, I'm spelling Chiefs with a T. I don't know what I'm doing.
It's chefs. The chefs are gonna win.
No,
I
don't know. I spelled it wrong twice in 2 different ways.
Okay.
I swear, I think I called them the chefs when I was a little kid. I thought they were the chefs.
I spelled it. That was a great commercial.
Chiefs and Chiefs with a FTS at the end. So I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying
the Chieftains. You're calling them the Chieftains.
The Chiefs.
Yeah. All right.
That's a real thing. That's a real thing.
All right. Chargers, Pats. Pats -4.
Chargers both.
Wow. Look at this guy.
He just hates.
Wasn't it?
Oh
no, he was against the Pats before.
Yeah,
he was biased. Yeah. Terrible pick.
His father-in-law.
All right, we'll see. I'm trying to just pick the opposite of you guys because I think you're sticking around.
I'm riding with you.
I'm gonna go Chargers too.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I'm going Chargers too.
Oh yeah, this is really interesting. We're all picking the same games.
No, I thought you guys picked different things than me the first 2.
A few of them, here and there.
Yeah, no, we're different the first 2.
A couple here and there.
All right, final game: Eagles, Saints. Saints are -8.
Saints.
I'm gonna take the Saints 27-20. So they're gonna just not cover the spread, but they're gonna win the game. Saints. Did I say Chiefs?
But Eagles with the spread.
Eagles with the spread, correct.
All right. Man, I you know what? Fuck it. I'm going Eagles to win straight up, just to talk shit to you the next podcast. And this is gonna be a reckless pick.
I was talking him up.
What he doesn't realize is I can easily get this file, and next week when we're doing this, I'm going to share this same clip and say, before we talk about the spread picks, let me play this quick clip from Ray. Boom.
This is a spite pick. So I'm just being straight up. This is the Saints are a better team, but I think there's something to a team playing hot. Plus, they're defending champs. This team has won. That Saints team.
I lost all respect when I watched their little stupid parade and where it ended, and Kelsey gets up there. Kelsey is too short and too small. And he did his whole little rant with his dress-up cartoon. They got lucky and they're done.
I don't like Kelsey.
Yeah, but
I don't like Kelsey either. He's an ass.
That's completely irrelevant.
No, hey, what about you with what was it? What did you just call it? The karma. You got your karma with the guy in Pittsburgh. Running back.
Le'Veon?
No.
Oh, Connor,
you got your karma. So Kelsey's getting his karma that he just went off and acted like a little. No, I know. I'm just saying you're gonna get karma. I couldn't remember the word. Jeez.
Karma schmarma. This doesn't mean shit. I think that it's all about the teams that are good for one and that are hot. And
I think there's going to be 2 blowouts. So I picked my picks based upon the thought that there's going to be blowouts, and I thought who would do it. So I think 2 out of the 3 are going to be blowouts. Okay, you don't think so?
This is the amount of blowouts this week.
I got a trivia for you guys. Question. What statistical category has Eli Manning led the league in? There's only one statistical character. Major passing.
All right, everybody. This has been our first
what's the only one he's ever led the league in?
Interceptions
3 times. 3 times. The only category he's ever led the league in. Not completion percentage, not touchdowns, none of that. Interceptions 3 times.
You know why he's such an asshole? Because he knows that's the last pick. We're about to end. He had to take a dig at Eli Manning. He's been itching.
Appearances between I know what he leads the Cowboys in appearances in the Super Bowl in the last decade, double decades.
This guy is. I'm not talking about Super Bowls right now. I'm talking about Hall of Fame, guys. I'm talking about he does not belong in the Hall of Fame. The only thing that belongs in the Hall of Fame, if they're going to do a bust of him, if they do a Manning face, I will allow him in the Hall of Fame.
And I am the world's best podcaster that's currently podcasting from this house. So that's easy for me to say when I make it a niche stat that no one else is competing. No,
he's 116 and 114. He's a 500 guy. He's a 500 quarterback. Find me a Hall of Fame quarterback that's 116 and 114. Find me one.
Joe Namath.
And then the vice versa is that Dan Marino. So he didn't win any championships. So the team has a lot to do with the losses that Eli Manning has had.
I would say the opposite. I would say the teams have had a huge part in Eli's wins.
But overall record, we're not talking about it. We're talking about the overall record.
Well, actually, Eli's never won a playoff game unless he's won the Super Bowl.
Bring up Joe Namath's record.
Let me see.
Bring it up. I just want to make you look stupid right now.
But look. He's led the league.
Well, what's his record?
He's led the league in yards twice.
What's his record?
He led the league in touchdowns before. His record is 62 and 63. And he's 500.
He's below 500.
Below 500.
Yeah, what was Eli's? He's 2 games above.
Two games above.
All right, so
let's check out
point that you
Brett
made was completely irrelevant. And then he's pointing at – you see, you guys that are watching in, you can't see the screen that he's looking at right now. He's pointing at, oh, look, he led the league in yards. He led the league in yards here. He led the league in yards with what? 2,700 yards?
Well, that was a strike. Looked like a strike season.
This guy. Oh, my God. Completely.
4,000 yards. Okay, and another thing is you can't get into stats. Okay, if you.
And this is second and 9.
We can't get into stats, but he's got footballreference.com up here, and he's pulling up stats. You can't get into stats.
Look at Eli's stats next to Joe Namath or Troy Aikman's stats. Obviously, the
stats. This is where you sign off, Ray.
Modern football stats are going to be way higher, way more inflated. I mean, I'm sure bum quarterbacks have better numbers than Troy Aikman. I mean, doesn't make them a better player than him. I mean, right?
You're just butthurt because Romo never got the respect that Eli did because Eli won Super Bowls and Romo is made of glass.
I believe that Romo is a more talented player than Eli. Was a better or more talented player than Eli.
He was more fragile. He was more fragile than Eli.
He definitely was fragile, especially towards the end of his career. Absolutely, you're right.
Not only fragile, he was fragile mentally too.
I mean, come on, stop it. You want
to Butterfingers. What happened on that one play when he was?
No, come on. He was a rookie. It was his first year. So you're going to blame Cody Parkey? It's like blaming Cody Parkey.
I mean, I could have hit that kick. I'm just saying, man.
No, it got blocked. That's not even the point.
He got blocked. He saw a fingernail touched.
Eli Manning, top 5. You have to be a top 5 quarterback of your generation. You got to be at least a top 5 to 10 quarterback your entire career, or at least most of your career. Eli's fallen like the 8 to 15
it's
to 20.
It's a counting stat. It's just like in baseball where half the guys in the Hall of Fame that are getting in right now are getting in because they played for a long time and they put up good to a slightly above. Sorry, I brought it back to baseball. Sorry, Ray.
but baseball's a different game because it's still 162 games. You're still getting the similar amount of at bats.
Yeah, they're still counting stats. You can't be like, oh,
Yeah,
this
but
is like,
don't bring up the baseball
The
thing
league has changed
because
so much.
the Hall of Fame, like for baseball,
well, I know it's messed up. It's messed up.
it's a joke. It's a joke. Like the voters are clowns.
From
like, in
1949 till 2000, there was only 24 quarterbacks inducted into the
But I'm still saying counting stats means something. Like the same reason Breeze was gonna, if he doesn't win another championship, he wins one championship.
But that doesn't mean anything
Because he's got ridiculous stats.
Yeah, but Drew.
And I know he led years. The point is counting stats.
It's the quality of player that you are, though, at the end of the day. Eli Manning was not the difference maker all the time. Even in the Super Bowl runs, he wasn't the difference maker in winning those games.
So you're San Diego Padres, San Diego Chargers.
Baseball.
What do you think? Yeah, baseball, right? What are you going to do about Phillip Rivers? Do you think that a Chargers fan is sitting there going, man, Rivers wins one Super Bowl, he's in the Hall of Fame? They're going to think that. They think that's the missing piece to him being in the Hall of Fame. Guess what?
His numbers are also better, and I haven't.
No, his stats are almost the same. Look at their stats; they're almost the same.
Oh, I mean,
bring them up.
I haven't compared those two, and honestly,
they brought it up on it.
I think they're somewhat similar. I think actually it's like Eli. Then Ben's were a little bit better than his, and then
no. Eli actually had better counting stats because he's played more games than both of them, which was shocking. But the averages and, like you said, like unique years where he led the league and stuff. The point is, counting stats mean something. And I'm just saying, like Phillip Rivers, they're gonna say he's a Hall of Famer if he wins one Super Bowl. So Eli wins two, and he's got the same stats. Why isn't he a Hall of Famer?
Did you see
the reason is because Eli sometimes, and I mean maybe more than sometimes in his career, he plays ugly, and that's the thing. You don't see that. You have actually seen that with Ben in recent years. Rivers, you haven't really seen that. You've seen it maybe 1 or 2 years in his career that he's just had a real shitty year, but Eli's done that often, and I think his demeanor and everything, and he looks like a goofball. There's people that don't like him, so they'll attack him, like Cowboys.
Well, I think it's fantasy. Like, has Eli Manning finished in the top 10 in fantasy? And
never. No, he's never really finished.
I think that plays a role in the way people look at him. You know, Phillip Rivers and Ben Roethlisberger have finished in the top 10. You know,
you keep talking about Rivers and Roethlisberger, and those are good places to start. But I'm not even talking about Rivers and Roethlisberger. I'm talking about Rodgers. I'm talking about Brady. I'm talking about Peyton. I'm talking about Brett Favre. I'm talking about Kurt Warner. I'm talking about people who played in the same generation as Eli that are better. That's already, 6 guys? I can name off 6 guys that are no-brainer Hall of Famers in front of Eli. Not to mention, I would put Ben out of those
they
3.
All are already.
Yeah, but that's because look.
You're right, but that's the cutoff. How many do you think you get? How many Hall of Fame quarterbacks do you think you get per generation?
Well, what's the what? Yeah, but
from 1950 to 2000, there's 24 quarterbacks.
Yeah, but there's guys going in the Hall of Fame that were playing in the 80s. They're playing, you know what I mean? So it makes no sense.
You can't go by generation. I think that's a stupid argument.
Well, it is very much so because the NFL is different now. I mean, all the quarterbacks.
I know from a statistics standpoint it's changed, but your argument is flawed because when it comes to talent, sometimes there could be a generation that just has twice the amount of talent at the quarterback position versus the decade prior. So you can't make
show me a genuine situation where that's true. Show me one time where there's just an oversaturation of elite quarterbacks. I'm talking about elite quarterbacks. I'm talking about Rodgers, Brady. There's no way you could put Rodgers, Brady in the same category as Eli. They're not in the same category.
Look at the list of quarterbacks though that we've grown up with: Peyton Manning, Brady, Rodgers.
And before they grew up with Marino, Aikman, Steve Young,
Aikman,
Joe Montana.
Come on, bro. Aikman.
He's not that good. He's not, but he was a good player.
I'm not saying he's not.
I don't think he was great. I don't think he was great.
He's not in that class, though.
I think he's way better than Eli. Way better than Eli. Honestly, that's my opinion.
I don't think he's way better.
I think he's honestly even to me borderline.
Michael Irvin and Plaxico Burress, they're equal quality. And Emmitt Smith and Ahmad Bradshaw,
you're naming the guy. Their fucking offensive line was unbelievable.
But where is that comparison apples to apples? Emmitt Smith's all-time. Emmitt Smith's the all-time leading rusher. I'm not saying he's better than Barry Sanders. I'm not saying he's better. I would never say that.
He couldn't keep down the Cowboy fan in him. He had to spit out. He had to get Aikman's name out there. He had to do it.
No, actually, I'm not even a huge fan of Aikman. I think Romo was better than Aikman. I honestly think that.
I mean, I would have to go back and watch the tape.
So then how is Aikman better than Eli?
I think Romo's better than Eli, too. More talented. He's more talented, for sure. He's asked to do more. He's asked to win the game. Eli's not asked to win the game. When Eli's asked to win the game, what are the Giants? Bad team. They're a bad team.
You know that Eli's going to be able to
This year
dress
they
every
built the team.
single day, and he's going to put up the stats. And when his team got to when it counted, unlike Romo, he actually got them through twice.
Yeah, and that's what.
Who would you rather have? Would you rather be Romo, who's now retired, who played less time and never made it to a Super Bowl, never won a Super Bowl, but you think he was better?
But that doesn't make you. But winning a Super Bowl doesn't make you the better player. Dan Marino's inarguably.
We're not saying better. I'm saying which one would you prefer to have?
Oh, you'd prefer to have Eli's career. Of course, you'd prefer to win the Super Bowl. I mean, obviously. But Tony Romo's a better player, in my opinion. He's a better football player. I mean, I can see the argument. He's not significantly better, so much better than Eli, but he's a more talented, better football player. He never won. They also had a huge inept system of player acquisition with Jerry Jones running amok, and things have changed a lot from that time.
Ray's very upset that we got to this topic and we didn't close down about 2 minutes ago.
I hijacked this.
I have to sit next to this and listen to it in person. You get to just do whatever you want. I got to listen to it right here in person. It's just like people have different definitions on like good or like a Hall of Fame player. Like some people grade it by rings and winning and coming through in the clutch, or just based off of talent. I mean, just like we can say,
I think it's both.
We were talking about
stats.
Well, we were talking about like
talent, it's the winning, it's everything.
We were talking about Saquon and Zeke earlier.
Yeah.
And what I had said, and I feel like you agreed with me. You could dispute me if I'm wrong, but we were basically saying that, or I was saying Saquon I think is a more talented player. Zeke is a more polished runner, and
I agree with that.
Handing the ball off as of right now, I would say Zeke is probably a better runner just because he runs smarter. Saquon in the next year or two will learn how to take certain pick his spots in terms of trying to hit the home run instead of trying to hit the home run all the time.
Come back to vision.
Because I mean the worst example of it was David Wilson. Sorry. When the Giants had David Wilson, he would literally just like, they would hand it off to him and he would just look down and just sprint forward and just run into his offensive line. Yeah, I mean, Saquon doesn't do that, but he doesn't have the patience yet to allow for something to open up between the tackles.
He really good.
He wants to
bounce it out every time.
He wants the linebackers to commit inside between tackle, and then he bounces them outside, and he's just faster than all of them, so he can beat them to the sideline. But it's the same argument, I think, with Romo and Eli, where Romo, you can make an argument he's a more talented player than Eli, flat out. I mean, you could see. I go by the eye test.
That over and over in my sleep, right there, that clip.
Bro, I'm not biased. I'm honest. But when it comes to saying who's a better player,
you're a little biased. Like, come on, don't be biased and honest.
I mean, we're talking about bias. Let's do a baseball podcast.
The Mets fan.
Let's talk about the Mets. He was biased. No, but my point I was trying to make was Eli. You can like analyze it a different way, where a player who's good is a player that in the biggest moments will come through and won't falter and won't throw that big interception.
But he did throw the big interception, though. The ball hit Asante Samuel in the hand. He just dropped it, right? I mean, if you go back, he threw to me, the argument of Eli's Super Bowls is you're putting him in the Hall of Fame off a guy catching a ball on his helmet. I mean, that's literally.
I've been on record.
You're sticking him on the Hall of Fame off of a guy being able to.
Well, Manningham also went like this on the sideline. You forget about that one. You got
that would be one Super Bowl, and there's no way you would put him in one.
Do you also remember how ridiculous of a throw that was to Manningham?
It was a good throw. It was a really good throw. It was the best throw of Eli's career. It was a good throw. It was one of the few moments in Eli's playoff runs that you could really point to that he made a great play, because he didn't make a ton of them. He only scored 17 points in the first Super Bowl they won. He didn't win that Super Bowl. It's a joke to make him Super Bowl MVP at 17 points. It's a joke to not make some co-MVP of that defensive line who just harassed Brady. Every freaking play they were hitting that guy.
Well, the thing was, in that game, there was no one guy that was just an unstoppable. It was Tucky Manure. It was everybody.
Would you rather, whose career? If you're Anthony DeScola right now, you can be one of three players, and at the end of it, you get what you get to play with, whatever it is, right? So you can either be Dan Marino, never win a Super Bowl, play back in the 70s, not make any money. Now you're doing a bunch of like fat commercials. Yeah, right. Or you could be, Tony Romo, play for like 8 years, think you're really good, but have a bunch of letdowns so that you never really got to it. Made a little bit more money than Dan Marino. Or you could be like Eli Manning, made a ton of money, have a lot of counting stats, won 2 Super Bowls, played for a lot longer than Romo. Which of the three do you pick?
I mean,
I'm saying for you as a career. Forget about who they are. Which career do you want?
And in this world, you're not a Cowboy fan.
Romo played 10 years, not 8. First of all, 10 years, not 8. And
I'm not talking. All right. I'm not talking about when he was sitting. He was sitting behind Dak and his buddies.
Stats don't matter though.
I didn't count that year, and I also didn't count the 2 years he sat behind Drew Bledsoe either. So he played 10 years of football. And no, I wouldn't choose to be. I would definitely not choose to be Eli Manning under any circumstance ever, just because of the way he looks. So just off of that, there's no way I'll be Eli Manning.
That's why the Giants didn't pick Sam Darnold. We didn't want another round of those comments. So that's why we let the Jets deal with the Sam Darnold.
No, Darnold. I don't think Darnold's like a
have you seen every
the Lego policeman?
Oh man, Eli's got the ugliest face I think I've ever seen, and he's folding. He's folding now. You got
it. Randy Johnson's the ugliest face that's ever been seen.
I mean, all right. I think it's time to end the podcast. We're at the point where we're criticizing Eli Manning's looks. So,
well, I just thought it was a weird question. Ask me who I want to be. I mean, I don't want to be any of them. I definitely don't want to be Eli's ugly ass.
Yeah, I don't know how we got here. We kind of went off the rails a little bit, but this has been episode 1 of the 2nd and 9 podcast. I hope you guys come hang out with us next time. We'll probably do another one next week after the games. We'll analyze the games, and then we'll talk about the conference championship games.
We're probably the only 3 people that are going to hear this.
Yeah, that's probably true. But social media advertising and promotion, then you never know. But on that note, peace out.